What's up, Bears fans? This is your Bears Huddle podcast. I'm Aaron James, and this is all your latest Bears news, your UK take on all things Chicago Bears, guys. Out and about, guys, out walking with the dog. Still in the process of moving properties, so still in the process of getting ready to obviously set up the studio, get ready to go again 100% properly with the channel, but still want to keep bringing you all the latest news in what is a very exciting Bears pre-season, building into what is going to be, I think, a pretty good season for the Bears. I really do. You know, I've got us slated to be NFC North champions. I think we will win it. I think we'll get 12-5 this season. But look, you know, one of the things that Ryan Poles has done this off-season is built that O-line. Guys are looking at, by the way, represent in the UK. You know, he's built that O-line right up. And obviously Drew Dahlman at centre. You've got Joe Tooney come in, Jonah Jackson. Add that into, obviously, Darnell Wright. We've drafted Ozzie Trapillo, who I think will be the starting left tackle come the start of the season after Braxton Jones' unimpressive preseason performance. I just think that, you know, if you look at the difference between the two of them, between Braxton and Ozzie, Braxton just has not developed. You know, has not developed in the way you would have hoped. And I think Ozzie's already starting to look better in lots of different areas than Braxton, even though Ozzie's a rookie. And I think Ozzie's ceiling is a lot higher than Braxton's. And with the fact that Braxton obviously is going to need a new contract, I genuinely think we don't do it. I genuinely think we obviously go with Ozzie Trapillo. I think, you know, the starting offensive line should be Trapillo. It should be Tooney, Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and obviously Darnell Wright. But one player who Rio really impressed even on Sunday in the preseason game was an O-lineman. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of people have thought is, after the disastrous showing of last year's O-line, where's the depth? Where is the depth in the O-line? One player who massively impressed in that tie, that kissing your sister incident on Sunday, was Theo Benedette, the Canadian offensive lineman born in Toronto, Canada. Guys, yeah, Canadian offensive lineman. Wow. Got our own Mountie on the offensive line. He's a big guy, 6'7". He is out of UBC, and he was an undrafted free agent, undrafted rookie last season. The Bears hung on to Benedette despite his injury last year, I think because they saw big things for him. And he really impressed in that preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. You know, he really did fantastically well. He was in for 29 snaps. And in all those 29 snaps, he did not allow one single pressure. That's right, not one single pressure given up in 29 snaps. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, yeah, but, you know, how many one-on-ones? Who was he playing against? If he was playing against the Dolphins' second and third stringers, then, yeah, you know, that's standard, isn't it? You know, you can't really judge him on that. Well, first of all, he was left one-on-one 13 out of those 29 snaps, and did not give up a single pressure during those 29 and those 13 individuals. And who was he up against? Well, at one point, several times, he was up against Chop Robinson, Dolphins' first round pick from 2024, and did not give up a single pressure against a first rounder. So this is a UDFA going up against a first rounder and winning. Now, Benedette is someone who can play tackle, who can play guard. He does have that kind of, you know, sort of utility offensive lineman feel about him at this present moment in time. However, I think the Bears will look to kind of specialise him, kind of bring him into being one position rather than the other, you know, as they look to bring in depth. Now, look at the tackle position at the moment. You've got obviously Darnell Wright, Ozzie Trapillo, Braxton Jones, Kieran Amegadjie. You know, it may be obviously that with the fact we've drafted Luke Newman, who's a guard, that we look at sort of bringing Theo Benedette and specialising him as a tackle. You know, bringing him in and making him, you know, specialise in those tackle positions. Maybe cover for Darnell Wright, you know, the backup to Wright. I think Kieran Amegadjie is perhaps a swing tackle at the moment. That's where they're seeing him kind of with him practicing at right tackle and left tackle during the training camp before he got injured, of course. But that injury obviously is something that's a concern. You know, if he doesn't obviously get 100% before roster cut down or before the start or before week one, it may be that Amegadjie, you know, put on the practice squad or put on an injured reserve or something like that. So, look, the situation is that we do need depth at offensive line, and Theo Benedette could be a man who really does bring that depth. He is, for me, very, very talented. You know, watching him, breaking down, looking at those 29 snaps that he played, he did not look flustered. He did not look in trouble at any point. His control was excellent. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. Someone I think could be a real difference maker on that offensive line. I'm not saying he starts by any stretch of the imagination. I think, the starting lineup is pretty much set. Left tackle being the one debate area, although I do think that Ozzy probably starts over Braxton. But the rest of them, obviously, you've got Joe Tooney, you've got Drew Dolman, Jonah Jackson, and Darnell Wright. But Theo Benedett can certainly provide that depth. Spell the tackles, even spell the guards to some extent. He is a guy who I think we should all be looking at. Now, look, he may have a disaster at game 2 against a very much superior AFC East team in the Buffalo Bills. Although the starters will get a run out to start off with. So we will see Benedett no doubt at some point. But I think Benedett is a player we need to pay attention to going forward. He is a player who I think has a role to play for the Chicago Bears. He really does. Now, I'm not saying Benedett's perfect, because he quite clearly isn't. The guy's a UDFA for a reason. The guy is obviously, not a starter for a reason. Now, there's a couple of things that he does need to really develop. His anchor is not 100%. That's something that he does need to work on. Obviously, but Braxton Jones got through a season with we're having a dodgy anchor. His hand placement is sometimes a little too far apart as well. So, stance, the anchor, and obviously the hand placement. But look, he's working with Dan Rauschar, one of the best offensive line guys in the business. That is no doubt something that Dan Rauschar can work on, can refine, can develop with him. Given the fact that at no point did that cause him any issues during the game against the Dolphins, even up against the first rounder, I think this is a guy who can go on to have great success. This is a guy who can go on to be a good depth piece. Now, I'm not saying a starter, I'm saying a depth piece for us. And we do need depth. It's all very well and good having this offensive line that Ryan Poles built. Built this fantastic offensive line, I think the 4th most expensive in the NFL. But you also need that depth there. And Benedett, I think, is someone we definitely need to watch. Benedett is certainly a piece I think can be a big part of the Bears' future. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Bear down.